This is WPIX New York. This is Channel 11 News at 10 with Marvin Scott and Mary Garafello.
Good evening. There is chaos in San Francisco tonight, where a major earthquake struck just a few hours ago.
The quake, registering as high as 7 on the Richter scale, and that means it's of major magnitude, has knocked out phones and power. And many fires are burning right now throughout the Bay Area. Buildings swayed menacingly for seemingly eternal seconds at about 8:04 New York time. As the tremor rumbled through, a portion of the San Francisco Bay Bridge collapsed. A 30-foot section you see here of the span's upper deck collapsed onto the lower level. A bus stopped just short of going into disaster. And a bus, it's not known whether any other vehicles were thrown into the water or any at all. The Coast Guard is checking. The bridge is now closed. The earthquake hit during a pregame show for the third game of the World Series.
And he fails to get Dave Parker at second base, so the Oakland A's take a
I'll tell you what, we're having an earthquake.
And power was instantly knocked out at the stadium. Television pictures were ceased transmission for a moment, and there were some reports of cracks at the stadium. 60,000 baseball fans evacuated. San Francisco's airport was also evacuated. All flights stopped while damage was being assessed. Concrete and parts of the ceiling toppled. There was no immediate word of casualties. For those who experienced it, the tremor was awful.
Somebody yelled and said to go underneath the table, and that's what we did. We went underneath the table, and then all of a sudden it was smoke, and we couldn't see.
Stuff was coming down and hit me in the back a little bit. It didn't hurt.
I was sitting there drinking up here, and it just shooking like holy hell. The whole damn floor started shaking, and the table started shaking, and here things are on the floor, and the ceiling came down. That's pretty bad. I predicted it. Everybody jumped.
Pictures coming in from San Francisco of the quake, which hit just about 2.5 hours ago. Indication at the moment from the reports and these pictures which we're seeing is that damage throughout San Francisco is extensive. The epicenter of the quake, Hollister, California, that's right in Earthquake Alley. This tremor, we're told, on the San Andreas Fault. Initial reports say the quake registered 7.0 on the Richter scale. Now, that's about the same magnitude as last year's horrific earthquake in Armenia that left thousands dead. However, tonight's tremor is not as severe as the one that jolted San Francisco back in 1906. The quake was felt as far away as Reno, Nevada. That's about 222 miles. Melinda Griffin is a telephone operator with Pacific Bell. She was on duty in Pleasanton, California, about 50 miles east of San Francisco when the tremor hit. I spoke to her a short time ago about what it was like. I'm told we don't have that tape, but what she did tell me, what she did tell me was that she was on a telephone call and she had a customer on the line when suddenly he said, the ground is shaking, there's an earthquake. And he apparently was in San Francisco, some 50 miles away, and just seconds later, as he was relating this to her, that she felt the tremor herself and saw the switchboard and all the other people there became very concerned, and they quietly evacuated the building. And they said that there was no panic at that moment. Mary.
Thank you, Marvin. Well, on the phone with us live right now is Dr. Karin Fisher of the Lamont Observatory. Karin, just how bad is it?
Well, it really is a very severe earthquake by U.S. standards. Our initial report is that it's a 6.9 on the Richter scale. And as you said earlier on the broadcast, that's the same size as the Armenian earthquake of last year. The quake itself wasn't actually in San Francisco. It was about 15 miles to the southeast, which puts it closer to Santa Cruz. So there's probably damage down there as well.
How severe earthquake, comparatively speaking, how severe is this? We've heard it being compared to the one in Armenia. What kind of damage? Obviously, we've seen some of the damage, but what kind of damage can this thing produce?
Well, to large buildings very close to the earthquake epicenter, that's the location where the earthquake occurs, you can expect extensive structural damage. For unreinforced concrete buildings, there's the potential that some of them might fall down. Now, U.S. building codes are fairly good, and we have no reports as yet that damage that severe has occurred. But certainly with an earthquake of that size, that's a possibility.
Dr. Fisher, this is Bob Harris at Channel 11. There have been several serious aftershocks, something like 5 to 5.5 on the Richter scale. How long will those aftershocks continue, and how strong, how great the magnitude?
That's very difficult to predict. It could be, you know, that they'll end within the next few hours, or they could extend over a period of several days to a week. And certainly, as we saw in the Mexico City earthquake in 1985, that those aftershocks can be nearly as damaging as the initial earthquake.
Okay, thank you very much, Doctor.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Bob, you've been watching it and seeing these readings, and we saw some pictures of the chart earlier tonight. It really was a rumbler that came through, and 7, as we say, is a major.
Oh, yes.
But what distinguishes between one causing catastrophic damage, as the one in Armenia did, versus the one in San Francisco?
Oh, it has to do with terrain. It has to do with density of population. The key factor here, Marvin, is that the fact that the epicenter, this is where the primary energy of the quake comes up from the bowels of the Earth, reaches the surface of the Earth, and then that energy radiates out in all directions. Let's understand that here we have a graphic showing that the epicenter was 75 miles away from San Francisco. That's where the primary energy occurred, near Hollister, Santa Cruz, and that San Francisco was hit with such devastation already, and still a good 75 miles away. So obviously it could have even been worse.
Okay, thank you, Bob. And now the telephone call I had a short time ago with Melinda Griffin, who is a telephone operator with Pacific Bell, describing the situation as the quake rolled through shortly after 8 o'clock tonight.
At 5 o'clock, we were all sitting here doing our job. I had a customer come in on the line from Fremont, California, asking for a number when he screamed, "We're having an earthquake." And I said, "What?" And he says, "Yes, we're having an earthquake." I didn't feel it at that moment, but about 10 seconds later, this building was rocking and rolling, everything. The lights in the ceiling were swaying. The positions started moving, and we have partitions up around managers' desks. They fell. Some of the ceiling pieces buckled. Pumpkins on our positions broke and fell, and it was just standing up. You had a hard time standing up because it felt like you had been drinking. That's about how hard it was. And I would say it lasted for about 15, 20 seconds. It was that hard.
Have you ever experienced anything like this before in your life?
Not this hard, no. Never in my life have I've been out here, 34 years. I have never felt anything as strong and as hard as that one came in today.
John Franzi, one of our cameramen, is live and honeymooning in San Francisco. He's with us right now on the phone. John, can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you loud and clear.
Where were you at the time of the quake, and were there any injuries around you?
We were right in San Francisco, and at the time of the quake, our whole room was shaking and things fell off the wall. After that, we went outside, and there was a lot of dust in the air. There was a lot of glass, broken glass from windows on the street, and there were some injuries.
Were much damage around you?
Not visible, but right around the area, maybe 2 or 3 blocks from the center of the city, there's a lot of windows from large stores and office buildings that had broken and fallen to the street. That's where the injuries were.
What is the situation there currently? Have you been instructed to do anything, stay away from buildings or stay outside or anything like that?
Basically, the police are saying to stay inside right now. There is no power in inner city. All lights are out. All electric bus service is out, and there's a lot of phone lines down. Also, there's a lot of gas line ruptures and small fires breaking out sporadically throughout the city.
John, were you injured at all?
No.
How is your wife?
She is fine.
And how are you feeling at this time? It must be an odd way to start a honeymoon off.
Yeah, well, it's going to be an earth-shaking marriage, I'll say that.
Well, I'm glad that you're safe. We hope the best for you. We'll see you back in New York not too far from now.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay. All right.
Okay, and stay in good spirits, John. Summarizing this major, massive earthquake that is dominating tonight's news, the preliminary measurement, about 7 on the Richter scale. Known span of its impact, some 200 miles from the epicenter near Santa Cruz in Northern California. Buildings that far away did shake. No confirmed reports of deaths, but several reports of injuries. A series of quake-related fires continuing to rage tonight throughout San Francisco. collapsed a 50-foot span of a huge Bay Bridge, postponed Game 3 of the World Series. After San Francisco's Candlestick Park was rocked by the quake, also hit Berkeley, where a major fire is said to be raging near their famous university, and San Jose, where there are unconfirmed reports that a shopping mall has collapsed. There have been several aftershocks, and we'll, of course, keep you updated as the news hour continues. Complete details on USA Tonight at 10:30.
We'll be back with more news from New York right after the commercials. Stay with us.